Hello, guys. Hi. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all to the Generative AI webinar series on all that is happening, the buzzword around. And we are here to discuss about something very interesting in the field of generative AI. The first one was to demystify the world. And we have put this series across 3 consecutive Thursdays, with the last Thursday where we talked about demystifying the world of Gen AI. And today, the 13th of July, Thursday, we are talking about prompt engineering, which is not very well known, but it is one of the most important secret sauces behind the success of all sort of generative AI solutions. And I think it's time for us to take an hour out of our busy schedules and hear through what is this field all about. Why is this making Gen AI successful? And this is going to be a fully focused session on that. It's not going to be very technical, not technical at all per se, but it's something for all of us. That's the idea. And let's delve into the world of prompt engineering today. And I'm going to bring up this famous question which I asked the last time. Folks who have attended the webinar last time should know the answer to it, but let's see if anyone new is there. Can you guess which is the hottest programming language today? Okay, Somashekar seems to have the answer right. Okay, it's none other than our one and only English, right? Okay, so for all those people who guess it's Python, R, Julia, Perl, Java, Rust, or any other programming language for that matter, it is English, and I mean it, right? English is the hottest programming language, and today's theme of our entire discussion is around how a very well-known language, which we all have been speaking in our corporate lives or in our schools, colleges, English is really the hottest programming language, and how we can really delve into the world of generative AI and indeed create a new job opportunity for us with our very own natural language, English. Yes. So let's do our hygiene aspects. I would like to do a little ice breaking and would love to know more about you guys. Let's hear from you. A poll is up on your screen. And who is here for the round two? And as I told you, it's a 3-part webinar series. We did one last time, and I'm really curious to know who are the repeat audience and who's here for the first time, so that I can understand how to place the examples on the fly. Let's make it fast. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. I think this still speaks for itself. We have a rough 70-30, 30% repeat audience, and let's give it some more time for our repeat audience to join in. And guys, for all the newbies out here, you will have the recording of the first one, the demystifying generative AI, on the platform very soon, and we'll share it to all the registered email IDs. And now let's also know a little bit more about you on your screen now. Do not even think a second to answer this. 5, 4, 3, 2, and boom. Okay, pretty cool. Again, so this time as well, we have diverse experience levels. Okay, I haven't shared the results. Are you seeing it up? Yes, I hope it should be up now. Interesting to know that we have people across all sorts of experience levels joining us today. Okay, let's promise to keep this domain agnostic, experience agnostic, the field agnostic, right? So that is all about generative AI, where it's applicable to everybody, irrespective of whichever level of experience or the industry we come from. And sometimes you don't even need to be technical, right? So today's session is where you don't even need to be technical to do generative AI. So that's the whole idea. Now, moving on to the next one, let's also understand you guys better. How familiar are you with prompt engineering? How familiar are you with prompt engineering? And also, have you applied prompt engineering in any of your projects or anywhere, right? It need not necessarily be a project in your life. Have you used, even with ChatGPT, when you interacted with it in the past. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the first time in today's session we cross 100 number in the polls. Okay, answers on your screen. Okay, 50% are completely new to prompt engineering and they are not at all familiar with the term. Little bit familiarity to 40% and extremely familiar. 10 in the class or 10 in the webinar are really familiar. Okay, we have some experienced folks as well. So no, not that it kind of resonates with the first one, right? 67% are, it's a little confusing as well, right? 51% are completely new at the same time. 67% haven't used it. So which means somewhat familiar guys haven't really used it. Yeah, that's what it means. Okay, nice to know. Then I'm really glad that we have a group which is not really aware of prompt engineering. And that's the whole purpose of the session today, guys, to introduce you to the world of prompt engineering and take you to this take you to the next level in your professional skill set, right? And it not necessarily a lucrative skill set, it is the skill set of tomorrow. And let's really understand why is this so popular, right? So it's a completely new career opportunity altogether. With the advent of generative AI applications like ChatGPT, it also gave birth to a new field of engineering called prompt engineering, which is the art side of generative AI and definitely not the science side of it, right? So if you think about generative AI for a second, it's of course a branch of AI which is good at generating content. Yeah, like how a human would draw, a human would write stuff, a human would code, a human would talk to another one, a human would think, reason out, and act. There are these nice neural network machine learning models sitting behind the screen, which has kind of seen the entire internet, so with some 500 plus terabytes of data, and it can kind of do most of the tasks. And if you're talking about these huge models, which can really process language, we are talking about those large language models. Now, the idea here is you need not necessarily know how to build a neural network architecture, how to build a machine learning model, what is a neural network, what is a large language model, how to tune these large language models, what is the size of it, what is the grid processing units that you need to even put this, how do you even crawl data, how do you do reinforcement learning. Even if you do not know any of this, or if you're not going to do any of this or not prepared to do any of this, still prompt engineering is applicable to you, because this is the art side of it, where this deals with how humans actually interact with these large language models like ChatGPT. And Sam Altman, the very own CEO of OpenAI, I think this is something Feb 20, I call this an old tweet because the kind of changes that happen in the field of generative AI, and we should call only something that is 2 days old as new stuff, right? So Feb 21, still not very old. And Sam says that it is writing a really great prompt for a chat application, a persona that a chat application is assigned to, is an amazing skill to leverage. And this is a good example of how natural language is making people do program and communicate with large language models. So this is something which many people were talking about. And if we also look at what is this, what are the Chinese AI giants, Baidu, the CEO and co-founder Robin Lee says, in 10 years from now, you're going to have half of the world doing prompt engineering. And it's not joking, right? He's not really joking. And if you don't know Baidu, go and look up for what Baidu does. And this is one of the AI giants, and of course, China is big time investing in AI. And while we are talking about AI on a Thursday evening as working professionals, a lot of AI is infused in the school curriculums as well in China. And now we see every single B school to engineering college in India, you see a variant of computer science in BTech with artificial intelligence, with with data science, with data analytics, and all these flavors of it, right? So, needless to say, this is the era of generative AI, and in 10 years, we are going to see a lot of people and exclusively writing prompts to interact with these large language models, and people who do not really know how to write will be obsolete. And this is a very bold statement, but let's appreciate the boldness around this, right, in the next few slides. Now, when you ask this ChatGPT, the darling of large language models, which kind of introduced generative AI to the whole world, right? About the importance of prompt engineering, it says effective prompt writing is very important for generating the high quality output. And this is what can help a model generate content that is relevant, that is coherent, that is consistent, and that matches the desired output of the user. Now you can imagine there are millions of people, right? And if you go by the stats, 100 million plus people kind of used chat gpt in less than 2 months, and it kind of reached 10 million people in 5 days, right? And these are all world records which some other AI technology or some other technology should come and break. Yeah. And it is that magical day, November 30, 2022, where ChatGPT really picked up, right, and took the internet by storm. And it is one single model sitting out there, guys. And look at the number of people we all interacting with it, and we all asking variety of questions to it, right? The quality of questions really do matter, but let's keep that aside for a second. But the different answers and the different qualities, the depth, right, of the answers really vary. Did you even think, do you even have variety of these chat GPT sitting and answering variety of users? No, it's just that one single large language model, right? So how is it even changing its forms and shapes and answers whenever it gives? So that art form of asking this question to ChatGPT is what prompt engineering in crude form, right? And you know what? Generative AI is not only generating stories and images, it's also generating new jobs. Did you know prompt engineer is a new role that is created in the tech world? And this is capable of putting some 300 plus $1,000 in your pocket if you really learn how to become one. Did you know the average range goes anywhere between $170,000 to 300 plus $1,000, and this is kind of becoming a more valued skill. And AI companies to even hospitals, children hospitals, to even libraries, or even hiring for prompt engineers. And in academia, this is really also considered to be a very important skill. And the kind of complex job complexities and the responsibilities can vary a lot depending on how this prompt engineer is supposed to interact with the systems in the companies. But the pay and the complexity of the job really varies. But this job is considered to be one of the most lucrative ones. And this is completely new. I do not even know how many. And apparently 70% of the class doesn't even know the field even exists. Anthropic is kind of a very important buzzword in the last 24 hours, right? And you see Anthropic really trending all across the world today. And this is something that I pulled today, July 11th. And there, Anthropic, for the world to know, is nothing but an AI company, which is a competitor of OpenAI. And if you guys know, OpenAI is the maker of all these large language models like ChatGPT, GPT-4, GPT-3, and all of these. Microsoft really invested big time, $11 billion in OpenAI, and holds almost half of the stakes. And OpenAI is not open anymore. It is closed AI because of the rights which Microsoft holds on all these models. Now, Google really got smart, and they were also investing big time, and they were also investing in themselves with technologies like Lambda, Bard, Palm API, and you must see MedPalm, which is something which is customized for medical data. And imagine doctors very soon, right? You really like a doctor for the experience. You really go to a doctor for the kind of cases, real practical cases he or she has solved. And imagine AI really helping a doctor with the first best diagnosis of having a 360-degree view of all the doctors around the world, all the cases successfully solved, all the theory around the world of medicine, right? So that is MedPalm for you, and from Google. But Anthropic is another startup company which was given birth in 2 years ago by one of the founders, one of the people who was there in the founding team of OpenAI. And there were differences of opinion. And there was this smart guy who started a company by the name Anthropic, and Google invested big time in this company, right? And this is really in the news in the last 24 hours to 48 hours, because they are really going big against OpenAI with the Claude 2, which is a model. And if you imagine ChatGPT, which can utter up to 3,000 words roughly, Anthropic's Claude can take up to 75,000 words. And this is equivalent to a full textbook, which can be summarized at one shot, right? And this is a company which has really raised $750 million in funds. And Google holds big stakes in this company. And if Microsoft invested big time in OpenAI, it's Google's style to invest in Anthropic, and a few other big tech giants are also behind the screen in this startup. And you know what? 2-year-old company is valued at $4.1 billion, right? And this company announced a prompt engineer role. I'm giving an example of how an happening AI tech company is ready to pay up to 250K plus 335K base salary plus equity for someone who's a prompt engineer. Yeah. And you can imagine the kind of depth this role is supposed to have when we call this role to be a not so tech role. Yeah. And more on this towards the Q&A, and we can talk more, right? So, but I thought Anthropic really excited me when I read this first time, and I thought you guys should also know. And you know what? There was this nice study which was done not too long ago, right? So we were just trying to understand what are those emerging jobs. And the World Economic Forum kind of publishes these trends. And you see 97 million jobs, right, were estimated by the World Economic Forum. And these are those 97 million jobs which will kind of enable humans and machines to work together. And in the list you see in blue are nothing but obviously the data science world, data analyst, AI, machine learning engineers, big data, digital marketing, process automation, and our smart prompt engineering is also a skill which is going to be which is part of this 97 million list, and it is going to kind of dictate how the shift of labor is going to happen between humans and machines, and the kind of interaction, human computer interaction, is going to be enabled with some special skills, and prompt engineering is one of those hotter skills. And what do you see in the mustard is nothing but the decreasing job demands, right? All those mundane tasks are really going to take a big hit. And big companies are recruiting prompt engineers, and we in India, we might think it's quite early, not really the case, right? So even some smart startups have started hiring for this role, and I have personally started putting down the job description of how a prompt engineer should look like when I'm clearly foreseeing someone getting hired in the upcoming quarters, right? So let's get introduced to the world of prompt engineering. The next 40 plus minutes we are going to talk more, and let's get started about what is a prompt. Prompt is nothing but an input you send to a large language model like ChatGPT. It is nothing but a set of instructions or a query which we put in that chat box, in that bot. Or if you are really that Python guy who is interacting with these large language models through the APIs, the input you send to the completions API or to the moderation API or to the fine-tune API is nothing but the prompt. And when we asked what is an AI prompt to ChatGPT, it says AI prompt is a text input that is used to generate an output by AI model. It can be a question, a statement, a type of text that is fed to the system that can generate an answer or output based on how it is trained. And as I said, this model has seen lots of data from the internet. It has seen all the Stack Overflow, all the GitHub of people, and all the images drawn by artists. If you look at image models like DALL-E, and if you look at all the articles, novels, internet data, news, everything is fed in. And it is kind of evaluating the input in natural language, and it is doing the sort of language generation back to you, right, as an output. So this one single thing that you write in the text box is nothing but a prompt. Now, prompt engineering really plays a big role in producing those precise outputs. If you ask what is prompt engineering in crude form, it is nothing but an art of communicating effectively with an AI like ChatGPT to achieve what is the result you desire to have, right? So it can really get crazy, right? How the kind of results and the quality of results that you get out of this AI models vary based on the way you communicate with it. And this skill is considered very important because this is the bridge between the human and the AI, right? You as a human is really smart. You can really create things, but a machine is doing this. So how do we leverage this machine and its potential? And even if I have read all the textbooks on computer science, I pretty much I could not have completed every single text out there on the internet or on the in the world of books on computer science, right? How many ever number of years I read them or learn them, right? So this machine is definitely powerful than a human, but we are still the boss and we communicate with it, and prompting is this real bridge between us and the machine, right? And I was fascinated by this image. This is for real, right? Machine kind of knows lots of things. It has seen all internet. Yeah. It has seen all the code, all the data. You need to really ask the right question to really get the answer. So prompt engineering is nothing but the art of crafting those effective inputs to guide the large language models like ChatGPT towards generating the desired output. And this image kind of speaks for the entire theme of this webinar. You never told me you knew that, says the human, but machine says you never asked, right? So that is prompt engineering, right? And in very crude form, it is a programming language which is completely in natural language, English, instead of having a computer programming language like the C or a C++ or a Python or a Java for that matter, right? So that is prompt engineering. And to really put some fun element to it, right? It is telling the genius when Aladdin scratches this magic lamp, the genius pops out and asks, Alam Fana, what should I say? And that's where you tell what you really need, right? And this is really a magic. Prompt engineering can really change the way the entire output can change. And if you're building a serious system, if you're building a business application which should help a doctor, if you're building an application which should help a bank, a regulator, let's say a clinical trial department which is researching on a drug, asking question about is there any risk in me using this particular molecule versus another. What if this AI system is trained on lots of clinical trial data, and it can kind of dynamically give a smart answer based on all the past success and failure of trials and the risks associated with it, with an answer, right? So for fun, it's definitely the question you ask to the genius, which pops out after scratching the magic lamp. But for real, right, it can get really serious, right? People are even building AI girlfriends. Yeah. And this is becoming big time, right? And we can talk about it during the Q&A. There are interesting Instagram influencers, especially women who have built services of AI girlfriends, which anyone can just pay and just chat like having a real girlfriend, and the system talks like a real girl, right? So now let's come back to something serious. Why is prompt design important? There are many components to prompt engineering. One, what is a prompt itself? How do you design? And how do you define the role of a prompt engineer? And what is the real process involved in this prompt engineer's interaction with his models, right? And let's kind of demystify that by thinking through certain fundamentals, right? Which will really put the seriousness of the situation. ChatGPT is a model which is trained on lots of stuff, we know. So the output quality is definitely a function of the input quality. If you throw in garbage, you get garbage out. In simple terms, for all those machine learning people or anybody who has done any single model out there, if you are putting a dirty data or a bad data into an AI, into a machine learning model and getting it trained on that bad data, expecting that model to give 100% accuracy in predicting something for the future is stupid, right? We should not really be doing that. So the quality of the input is what that determines the quality of the output. And in here as well, it is nothing but an AI system, which is definitely trained on lots of text. And you should be cognizant of the fact that what you ask and what you get are very well related. So a well-designed prompt really defines a well-defined output. A bad prompt can really be a broad prompt, right? So it's a prompt which is not giving enough information to the generative AI model like ChatGPT. And if you ask something really broad, something like, what is animal kingdom, right? It's a very broad term. Tell me about encyclopedia, right? So this is something which is really broad, and anything that is really broad, you are really allowing the system to take a plethora of decisions to make and kind of give the outputs, right? So you are being an experiment that ChatGPT conducts on you, and rather you should be conducting experiments with models like ChatGPT, right? So it can potentially create a lot of confusion. It can create poor results, the quality, and even lots of misinformation can also be out there. So simply speaking, a broad prompt is most of the times a bad prompt. But if you think of what is a prompt engineer supposed to do, he or she is the person who must know that AI answers to questions. If their answers are really making sense, is it really fitting the context in which the generative AI system is built? It's not a chat GPT, which billions of people are interacting with it, right? Lots of visitors are coming in and going out. If you are really building a serious application with it in your enterprise, or if you're building an application which you're creating a business out of it, it could be even a fun business, right, where you're generating articles for your blog writers. It could be a marketing creative written for a marketing company. And gone are those days where marketing creatives cost a bomb, right? Now all these companies are, say, marketing, like, you are going to be charged one tenth of the money which we charge you the last year, right? So that's how there's a radical shift in the way they are doing business. And if you see the results, it could be incomplete, it could be unpredictable or unintended. So this prompt engineer is the person who should know how to tweak the AI system so that it gives the correct answers. So this is the process in which the chat GPT was also built, guys, right? You are seeing the best version today, but I don't know if there is anyone in this room who used this in the first week of December. I remember those days where I used to ask, what is 1 plus 1? The model used to say 2. And I used to say that, no, you're wrong. It is 3. It apologizes and says that, yes, it is 3. And again, when you ask what is 1 plus 1, it says 3 from there on. Do you want a system like that? And the feedback, you remember the thumbs up and the thumbs down you give and the piece of English text you put in there, that is going back and training the foundational chat GPT model. And that is how it got better over time. And there are lots of prompt engineering small tweaks which we can do to make this model perform better over time. Now let's still zoom in further and understand what does a prompt engineer really do, right? This person, as I said, is the person who's dealing with the generative AI system and kind of evaluates the responses. Yeah. So what is the cycle here? There is a prompt, which is nothing but an input provided to the AI model. There is an output. For the input provided, the generative AI generates an output. It could be an image, it could be a text, it could be a video, it could be audio. But if you keep it simple, ChatGPT gives a text back, right, for a text that you were provided as an input. Prompt engineer assesses the performance, evaluates the output for the correctness, for the accuracy, for the relevance, for the coherence, for the style, right? And if the person finds a scope of enriching the output, right? The person identifies areas on how we can tweak the prompt to see if the results are getting better, and also understands if there is a gap in the system to go back and retrain this generative AI system. Now, you go back and provide these inputs to the AI team, or you as a person, if you're tech savvy and playing the role of a prompt engineer, can also play the dual role, right? So in simple terms, there are clear 4 steps: an input, an output, an assessment of the output, and also an enrichment recommendation. Now, a prompt engineer can really save lots of time and energy and can also create a top line impact for a generative AI organization like Anthropic or that of OpenAI, right? Or any AI company they can imagine under the sun, right? NVIDIA, it's also a hardware plus an AI company, right? Google. Now, This person need not necessarily be a tech person. If the prompt engineer is a tech person, the person can train an AI model to improve its responses, or the person can develop and test and refine the AI prompts. The person can effectively collaborate with the AI team, with the data team, with the business team, and has these cross-disciplinary skills and multimodal communication skills, and can kind of analyze the tests performed and can report the same and provide it back as an feedback, right? So you can imagine a traditional QA engineer, a UI UX engineer, right? Who's or somebody to stress testing the system, which is going to before it hits the production, right? So all these are traditional roles which we can relate to. Now, if you kind of come to the large language model world, if you generalize it as a generative AI product you're building, this particular person, prompt engineer, is the key guy, right? Who should be ensuring that everything is there in place. Let's see an example, right? Let's imagine there is a chatbot which we are building. Yes, and this is kind of really trained well on the Academy Awards. Yeah. Now, what do? We put this prompt engineer by the name Ramesh, and Ramesh asks the following question: Who won the movie award? Who won the movie award? This is a stupid question. It is an ineffective prompt because it's pretty broad, because it might even confuse the AI system, and the AI system might respond with a huge list, right, of award winners. But what about there is another prompt engineer, Suresh, who asks, which movie won the Academy Award for the Best Picture in 2019? This particular prompt is really, really specific. The AI could effectively respond with a real specific answer. And by the way, Green Book is the movie which won the Best Picture in 2019, right? For your information. So here, this is an example of a broad prompt and something which is a very focused and a good prompt. Now, this is in the world of academy, right? Now, let's bring in a prompt engineer here. In simple terms, the prompt engineer here might test the system, might asking which movie won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1917, when we know it for a fact that Academy Award ceremony we started having it only from 1929. So the prompt engineer would kind of see how the AI is responding to a question like this. Is it hallucinating, saying that, creating a fictitious movie and saying that this movie won the Academy Award in 1917? Or is it saying that, hey, you know what? The Academy Awards never existed in 1970, right? So this is kind of a very important scenario in a fun an experiment like building an Academy Award bot, right? For, let's say, the Oscars or some movie festival, right? So think of, I hope you're able to relate to the role of a prompt engineer, right? Now let's get really serious, and let's relate to what are those big problems, difficult problems which were considered time consuming, problems which used to take lots of research, lots of algorithmic skills to solve, like text generation. We are talking about natural language generation, right? Generating text based on a given input. Question answering systems like the one we saw before, Ramesh and Suresh, right? In fact, I got inspired by the 5-star ads which we used to have, right? So sentiment analysis, and this is one interesting area, right, where the world is revolving around a lot of unstructured data. People are writing tweets. The moment you buy a product, you go back and write a review on Amazon. And if you see a new operating system or anybody launching a product online, we start writing opinionated text on the internet. Tweet. We write Insta feeds. We go to Facebook and express our opinion. Now, understanding whether people are liking or not liking it is very important as organizations making products for customers, isn't it? So sentiment analysis has really become very smart, and I really love this third use case. I'm going to show you some examples, right, of my personal experience in asking few examples to sentiment analysis systems. I still remember a decade ago where I used to build models on sentiment analysis and really crawl data from Twitter, figure out whether a product the users have a positive or a negative sentiment associated with that. And now what is the magic of these large language models in taking up this task, right? Text classification, translation from one language to another, named entity recognition. And this is mind blowing, right? This is nothing but if you give a huge piece of text, let's say Microsoft invested in OpenAI $1 billion in 2022. And after ChatGPT was introduced in November 2022, Microsoft invested another $10 billion, securing the rights of 48% of the company. If I give a small piece of text like this, and if you ask to identify the key entities. The entity here refers to the different company names, the different product names. If you look at years, that is also an entity. If you look at the catalog in Amazon or anywhere you go, you see the make, the quality, the brand name, so many things associated with it, right? All these are entities, guys. Now, when you're building a search engine, when you're building, let's say, a question answering system, the AI should be smart enough to identify these entities, right? And I still remember 6-month-old projects, right? I mean, projects which run for years together, trying to solve this hard problem of name entity recognition. Now that has become a simple prompt which we smartly craft to identify these. And paraphrasing, summarization, needless to say, you guys also must have experienced. Give a huge textbook and ask ChatGPT to summarize it. It can create a shorter version of the same. And chatbot building is not considered to be a less lucrative thing anymore. And have you ever tried chatting with your standard applications last year, or going to any bank website and using that chatbot out there and expecting an answer to the question you ask? It always gives those pre-programmed answers, which are many of times irritating, and we end up cursing the customer care more by putting that super dumb chatbot out there, which is answering something which you never wanted it to answer, right? Now, gone are those days. All those companies which are building automation teams, which are building chatbots, are really leveraging GPT big time, right? And all these large language models to give human-like answers. Now, these are some serious problems. And I don't have time to go through all of it today, but I'm still show you some of those examples, right? And we can see how this is, you can relate to your respective domains. And if I get little into the art form of prompt engineering, there are many, many techniques in crafting those nice prompts. How you prime a prompt. How do you do a zero-shot prompt, one-shot prompt, few-shot? There is a chain of thought prompting. There is a tree of thought. Now there is a graph of thought prompting as well. These are all different papers which are being written by big tech companies and researchers, right? In telling how we can craft those prompts and what are those frameworks which we can use to make these large language models think and respond, right? So it can even be a prompt which can be a self-critic. We can write a reverse prompt. There are many techniques, right? So I'll give you a lot of references for you to go back and build your skills on this, but we'll see a few examples to get excited, right? And let's do a poll now to understand how you and ChatGPT / OpenAI are really friends or strangers. Poll on your screen now. What does GPT stand for in ChatGPT? If there is anyone in this class who has attended the previous one, the webinar, you have your answers. Because in that webinar, we talked about the 3 big innovations behind the success of a large language model like ChatGPT, right? A transformer architecture. And also the second one, it's a ChatGPT superpower is Dash. I don't expect anybody to even get this wrong, but still few are getting it wrong. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's mark 100. Yes, there we go. Oh, 100 to 110 in a second, right? Cool. Let me close this poll. And there you go. Here are the answers. Very interesting to see. 78% in this class. Wow. I'm very glad to talk in front of this prestigious audience who are really aware of GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers, which is the correct answer. And that is what is the generative capability of this transformer neural network architecture, which is pre-trained on a whole lot of text out there on the internet. Yeah. And ChatGPT's superpower is having a chat like a human, right? Generative human like text. Definitely not quantum computing, except for the fact that when quantum computers are there, ChatGPT can be leveraged and it can even do faster computations. But for a fact, this is the fun example which they put, right? Explain quantum computing to a 5-year-old when they showcase ChatGPT as in the homepage, right? So definitely well aware, well informed audience we have today. Thank you so much for that. So let's also come back and think about how many of us have this OpenAI account. If you do not have, it's time for you to grab one. All you need to do is go to this link, right? OpenAI sign up. You just Google for it. You'll get a simple form where you can put in a fresh email ID, fresh phone number. You'll be asked to log in and you'll be granted with a $5 account, right? Because to use these models, you need to pay them. And because of the power is there and they have lots of resources behind the screen, right? Lots of infra, which would kind of eat up a lot of electricity. So you need to pay them, right? So, but still $5 is good enough for a trial account for 3 months for you to really get exposed. And if you are in corporates, you will have those free giant accounts, right? Which you can use. So this is for people who haven't still got their accounts. And whatever I'm going to demo in the next 20 minutes or so, you will definitely need to have a playground, right, in OpenAI. And OpenAI has this option where you can go to the playground environment, which I'll show you in a second, and where you can try many types of prompts. Yeah. So this is for those guys who don't have an account. And if you had an account long ago, it would have got expired in 3 months. So you need to make a fresh one with a new mobile number. That's the magic, right? You will get another 5 credits, $5 credit. Let's discuss some rules of thumb really quick, and we'll see certain examples in action, right? And of prompt engineering. The first step is we can make this ChatGPT or any language model like GPT-4 to play a specific role. You can make this a recruiter, you can make it a marketer, you can make it a Python programmer. Here is a fun example where we have defined the role of this particular ChatGPT to respond only with emojis, right? And when you ask, how are you? It replies back in emojis, right? And it chooses the best possible emoji, right? So this is something a human can very well do, right? And look at this, the behavior of this model, the way it responds, and this is ChatGPT for real, right? If you go to the playground, you can write this system role, which can act as an interviewer. And you can say that you are an interviewer. Ask me questions on Python. I'm going for an interview tomorrow. And you can simulate an environment with your own ChatGPT, right? Or you can become a student and learn from a teacher, right? Or you can really make it a marketer or a programmer or anything of that sort, right? So this is possible in a chat web AI. You can still write, act as a recruiter, play the role of a recruiter, act as a storyteller, and do this, right? So you define a role first, and that is the first and foremost things, which is the primer, right? Now, a few other interesting aspects, right, which most of us might not have noticed is summarize the text below as bullet points. And if you put the text here, instead, if you start using some delimiters, right, like triple quotes, right, by saying the same thing, summarize the below points as bullets. And if you say, here you go, the text colon, and you put it in triple quotes, right? This kind of makes the large language model like ChatGPT to understand the content better. And you can experiment this, right, for yourself. See how the results change. Now, you can write a prompt like write a poem about OpenAI. Or you can even write a very better prompt, like write a short, inspiring poem about OpenAI, focusing on the recent DALL-E product launch. DALL-E is a text to image model, right? So you can ask DALL-E model to generate some text. And for those guys who are wondering what DALL-E is, you are invited for the next webinar on generative AI in action, where I'll show you anything ranging from image to video to audio. And we have seen text, right? Let's also see other modalities of generative AI, right? So in the next webinar, like in the style of a famous poet. And look at the kind of definition of the prompt here, right? It's very specific. It describes the role that this has to play in the style of a particular poet. You can say Shakespeare here. right? You can write any specific person. If you wanted to talk like Abdul Kalam, you can make it do that. And here it is clearly defining what is the topic, what is the specific around the model to generate a poem, and what is the style. And this is going to be very, very different from the first prompt, right? Again, something which you can try with ChatGPT. And few other thumb rules are, you got to give clear, relevant information, right? Write an article about animals is very broad. Then write an informative articles about the role of bees in pollination and its importance in maintaining a healthy ecosystem in 350 words. Look at the kind of coherence that is out there in this contextual instruction, which defines the scope of the output. Right now, your output is going to be very pretty and consumable than this broad article about animals. Right now, also being explicit. Know one thing for a fact: this is trained on the internet data, ChatGPT or any model for that matter. It is biased. It might have a lot of opinionated information on which it is trained on. It might think only the white men are really great, right? And a lot of moderation, lots of fairness, lots of bias, lots of sexual orientation, lots of text which are even abuse, right? Are exposed. ChatGPT is exposed to all sorts of stuff. Now, if you ask this model to write an essay about the qualities of a good leader, it is kind of biased, right? It might bring all that opinionated information, right? So what if it says only men are good leaders and women are not? And what if the model is trained on lots of such content which told that, right? So it is a big bias which we are kind of putting into the system, right? So how about writing a prompt like describe the qualities of a good leader, ensuring that the answer is gender neutral, avoid stereotypes. This is going to create a better output, which is void of all these challenges in the data, right? And this is going to be a big challenge when you build your enterprise solutions, guys. So pay attention to these minute aspects, right? You might wonder, it's just writing some English text, what's the big deal, right? But it's what changes the whole, the way in which these models work. Now, I really want to jump in and show you an example on a rainbow recognition, but just get the gist and I allow you guys to try. So here, if you give a task like extract the entities in the below text, right? And if you ask this model to say that and extract company name, people name, specific name, it can still do. But look at how the prompt can be written in a better way, right? Extract the important entities in the text below. And this is where the text sits, right? You put text colon and you put the text. First, you define the role, you tell what it has to do. Then you kind of define the format in which the output has to come, right? First, extract all company names, then extract people names, then extract specific topics. And you say, this is my format. I say company name. This is something like comma separated list of company names. It's not a syntax, right? It's the way you define, right? You can write and the model understands. That's the beauty. And you say people name colon dash double pipe dash. It kind of gives you the people name from the text. It could be a huge 500 word article, right? It might extract all the key people out there, right? And specific topic. So this is something which might be a very interesting try. I'll also show you something, right? And it's time for us to understand what is a zero shot method and what is a few shot method. Zero shot is nothing but the model is already trained on lots of data and you simply give an input, it gives you an output. Best example, and this is my classic example that I used for 10 years of AI teaching, right? So what is the sentiment of the following, right? And I give text 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've tried the same 4 examples 10 years ago as well. And all those sentiment analysis models have really gone crazy. The movie is bloody good. Positive sentiment, we can guess, right? The movie is so nice that I slept in the first 5 minutes. Movie is so nice, sounds interesting, positive, but I slept in the first 5 minutes is an extremely sarcastic statement, right? Now, sarcasm was a big challenge for the models to handle. It was not really doing a good job, right? The traditional natural language model, sentiment analysis models. Now these large language models, I will show you in the next slide, right? Something which I tried for real. And this is zero shot, right? Where you give an input and you expect the model to give an answer. there is something called a few shot where you provide examples to the system and you expect it to answer, right? So something like extract keywords from the below text. You give the text and you're saying, hey, you know what? These are the keywords: Stripe, payment processing, API. This one statement, and I give the example of the keywords extracted. Then another example, I give OpenAI, blah, 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 and I say these are the keywords, right? OpenAI, language models, text processing API. Then if you put a text 3 and if you give your own text here, the model understands this is the style you are asking it to follow, and it will give you the output in this format. This is few shot, right? Where you're giving few shots, examples, and it will follow it, right? This is zero shot because no example, but it still answers, right? Now, there is another interesting idea called prompt chaining, right? Look at this example. Discuss the importance of renewable energy. Could be a normal prompt which you can put in ChatGPT, but instead try this. Give one idea at a time and a series of prompts that will build on top of each other. Something like list 3 types of renewable energy sources. It lists you. Then you say, for each renewable energy source listed, describe its benefits and challenges. Then you kind of drive this model in the way you want the article to be written by saying, summarize the overall importance of renewable energy for combating climate change and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. Do you think this kind of depth the article would have if you write a broad prompt like discuss the importance of renewable energy? Not really. So this is prompt chaining, a very effective technique in prompt engineering, where we write a series of prompts to get specific, detailed, coherent responses from these models. Okay, now it's time for us to really think through something even humans cannot comprehend: the Pluchet wheel of emotions, right? Now, this is a wheel which is created by one of the famous psychologist researchers, right? And the way he has defined this wheel is, you see these different emotions that humans kind of exhibit at different points in time, and this wheel kind of gives the opposite, right? If you see the wheel, if you see rage, terror; grief, ecstasy; vigilance, amazement. So there are subtle emotions which we kind of exhibit, right? In the beyond admiration, it can be a trust, it can be an acceptance, and there can even be an integration of 2 different emotions which we might sometimes exhibit, right? So a trust, a fear, and a submission. It could be a surprise mixed with sadness or disapproval, right? So many times we might say, I'm down with mixed feelings. I don't even know how to express myself. And it is very hard even for humans to explain the emotions we are going through sometimes, right? So this wheel of emotions, if you do not know, understand, this is defined out there and based on how we behave, right? Anger can even go to annoyance, and that anger mixed with disgust, and it can even go to contempt, is a mixed emotion, right? So now, how about these language models, right, which can even understand these subtle variations in the emotions, right? And it can create a situation that transitions from anger to acceptance. Or if you ask it to tell a story that starts with terror, experience amusement, and then end with trust. Look at where terror is in this, right? In this whole matrix, terror to something like an amusement, right? And to that of an acceptance, right? So let's see this in action. I'm going to show you something really quick, and let's see if this thing loads. And this is my screen, again being shared with you in full screen mode. Yeah, so for your information, this is Playground, guys. This is OpenAI Playground, and this is my simple personal account. You see this, the traditional ChatGPT where you just go and type. This looks very different, and you can put in your prompts, and you can even save these prompts, and that's what I have done before this webinar, right? And you can even tell what model, right? There is also a model of ChatGPT which is 3.5 turbo technically, which can even utter 16,000 words beyond, right? And there are more models, right? And you can even control how many words it can say, right? You can go up to 2,000, and you can control that, and you can even control the creative factor of this model with this temperature parameter by changing it. right? So this kind of gives us a real playground feeling. And look at the prompt I have written here. You are a great storyteller who understands the emotions defined by the pleasure wheel of emotions. You will create short stories in 100 words based on the range of emotions defined. Now, this is the role I define. And I write a simple prompt like tell a story that starts with terror, experiences amusement, and ends with trust. Now, this is the story it created, right? In 100 words. Terror gripped Sarah as she found herself alone in darkness of a haunted house. Creaking footsteps echoed, sending shivers down her spine. She stumbled upon a room and figured jumping out. But instead of terror, amusement lit up her face. It was just her mischievous bro, Jake, playing a prank. Relieved laughter filled in the air. Their fears transformed into silly giggles. Caught into the moment, they realized their bond was unbreakable. Trust bloomed between them as they comforted each other in the face of their shared fears. In the darkness, their trust illuminated the path ahead. Now, look at this. Terror, it started with terror. It experienced amusement that it ends with trust. This is a cute little short story. Even humans might find difficulty in coming up with this, right? Look at this one, where I wanted to play with extreme emotions, right? Create a situation that transitions from anger to acceptance in an office setup. And I was curious to see what comes out, right? And I was expecting this example where anger radiated through the office as Mark, a guy whose promotion was handed to a less deserving colleague. Yeah, frustrated, he stormed into his cubicle, slammed his laptop shut. His colleagues watched apprehensive, but as he saw a note on his desk, confusion eclipsed his anger. It was an apology from his boss explaining that a mistake had been made. Mark's fury softened, transforming into curiosity. He approached his boss, who admitted the error and offered him the promotion he deserved. Mark's attractions grew, realizing sometimes even in face of frustration, patience, understanding can pave the way to a better outcome. Now, this is something in an office setup. Look at that confined boundary, right? Where we are played with huge spectrum of emotions, anger to acceptance, right? So this is one example, right? Of how you can play with ChatGPT and with emotions. And I'm going to show this very interesting example on sentiment analysis, right? And this is sentiment analysis, most of us should understand. It is the idea of discovering whether people like, dislike, and what is their opinion towards a product or a service. And companies do this big time, right? And in fact, I would collect a feedback in a very interesting way in a few minutes, right? And you guys should give your feedback. And that's my way to gauge whether you liked or not, right? GPT-3 is a model which was released in 2020. This is a beast, right? This is still a beast. It's a huge model with 175 billion parameters. You know what? We were busy with COVID and we never cared about GPT-3. And ChatGPT is nothing but a fine-tuned version of GPT-3. Okay. And I asked this question: what is the sentiment of the following? The same 4 tweets, right? Is the movie is bloody good. It said positive. The movie is so nice that I slept in the first 5 minutes. It still said positive. But we know it is not a positive sentiment, right? The movie is so nice that I walked out of the hall in 2 minutes. This is sarcasm walking out, but still it kind of got smart and said it is negative. The movie is a blockbuster. By the way, who's the actor? If I ask something like this, right, my tone defines I'm sarcastic, right? I can even be a neutral question, but it still says positive. Not so great, right? Not so great. How about ChatGPT, right? Asking the same to the fine-tuned version of GPT-3, which is ChatGPT, which is the darling, right? Which we all know. That's why we are here today, right? On a working evening. What is the sentiment of the following same 4 tweets? And to which the second one is smartly identified as a negative sentiment, which is a sarcasm, right? Somebody slept in the first 5 minutes. How can the movie be so nice, right? And the last one, look at the beauty. It said neutral. The movie is a blockbuster. By the way, who's the actor? It could be a neutral sentiment as well, right? Didn't want to say whether it's positive or negative. Wait, March 14th, 2023, few months, 1 quarter ago, GPT-4 was introduced, right? And GPT-4 is really a huge model, which is kind of much, much, much bigger than ChatGPT or GPT-3. And look at the answer which it gave, right? And I got hold of this a premium account of GPT-4, and I asked the same 4 questions. Look at the articulation skills, right? First one is a positive sentiment, second one is negative, third one is negative, fourth one is neutral. This even ChatGPT said, right? What is the big thing about it? Look at the further thing, right? Look at the second one. Despite the word nice, the speaker indicates they fell asleep quickly, indicating the movie was boring or interesting. So this is reasoning, right? Look at the next one. Despite the word nice, walking out of the movie early signifies dissatisfaction or lack of interest, right? So that is how it arrived at the conclusion that it is negative sentiment. This is mind blowing, right? And for the fourth one also, it said why it is neutral, because it which could suggest a positive sentiment, but the actor asking a question about the actor is distracting, so it kind of reached to a neutral sentiment, right? And this is for real, guys. And you can, and now OpenAI announced that GPT-4 is available for all, right? And I would love to give a very serious, very complex example of how math can get really crazy with models like ChatGPT, right? If you do a zero shot prompting, like you're saying Roger has 5 tennis balls, he buys 2 more cans of tennis balls, each can has 3 tennis balls. How many tennis balls does he have now? You say answer is 11. So this is something you kind of you gave as a example to ChatGPT. Now, or GPT-4 or GPT-3, any model in the family, right? Now you ask a question like the cafeteria had 23 apples. They used 20 apples to make lunch. So 20 gone, right? Only 3 left. And bought 6 more, which means 3 in hand, 6 bought more, 6 plus 3, 9. That is what the answer you expect. But this ChatGPT gives an answer 27. You know what? We never retrained this model. We kind of changed the prompt in a way by giving the steps that one has to follow to come arrive at the answer, right? The same example, when tweaked, like Roger started with 5 balls, 2 cans of 3 tennis balls, each is 6 tennis balls. So which means 2 into 3, 6. Previous one has 5, 5 plus 6, 11. The answer is 11. So we are giving the steps to compute that. Now, when you ask the same question, look at the answer. The cafeteria had 23 apples originally. They used 20 to make lunch. So they had 23 minus 20, which is 3, which is what we did, right, as humans. And it said they bought 6 more. So it is 3 plus 6, 9. That's the answer. And bingo, that's the correct answer, right? So this is how prompt engineering is kind of, this is what is called chain of thought prompting, right? And it is a famous paper, which is 1 quarter old. But after that, we have had papers like Tree of Thought, React Framework, Graph of Thought, and it's going really crazy, right? The same model, guys. Listen to me again. It's the same ChatGPT, which is behaving smarter and smarter and smarter and getting better over time with prompts. So is it not important to learn how to even prompt these models? That is prompt engineering, right? So I really wanted to show you a few more examples. I think let's take another 10 minutes if you guys are all okay, right? I'm going to show you some more examples, and then we should give a wrap, right? I'm going to show some very simple examples as well, right? So this is the playground, right? And if you go there in the playground, you will see some examples, right? And very simple thing like correct this to standard English. She went to the market, right? And let's say if you are used to talking like this, or you're not well versed, and if you are typing something like this, you want this model to autocorrect before you send it to your client, right? She did not go to the market, right? And this is playground, right, where you can kind of choose the model you want. If you want a code model, if you want a model, if you want to control the length of the answer, you can do all sorts of stuff, right? And earlier I showed you a chat GPT, which you can pick from selecting this, and complete is the set of models which I'm showing you here, right? And you can play with many things like this, right? For instance, this is another prompt which I wanted to show you. This is about Jupiter, the planet, right? And this is a little complex, right? It says 2.5 times the size, naked eye, sky. It kind of tells lots of information. But to a second grader, if you ask a question, right, it is understanding the context. And that's what most of us must have tried, right? Explain quantum computing to a 10-year-old, right? That is a default example that is there on the home screen of ChatGPT, right? So it says Jupiter is a very big planet, very big, bright planet, 5th from the sun. And all these things would definitely make sense to a second grader. And you can use this to learn new technologies, right? This is the best era to learn new technology, right? Even if you want to go back to some school days and learn something the best way, you can do it. And let me show you something like this, right? An example of a classification, right? So the following is a list of companies and the categories they fall into, right? So you say Apple, Facebook, FedEx. You're giving the list of companies and you want the model to guess the category. And when I write, it says technology. Let's try what it says for Hero Wired, right? I'm very curious. Telecommunications. Okay. So I think Hero is a big group. So that's where I think it kind of figures out. And again, this model is trained until 2021, right? 2021 is the memory span it has, right? So likewise, you can go on and put any new company, right? Something like, let's say, even you can write Open AI or even Google, and we can guess what is the answer, right? So you can run it by hitting the submit, and it says artificial intelligence. So that's how it responds to your questions. And this is, you can even do natural language, right? So look at this example. Here, I put these triple quotes and I say, create a list of first names, create a list of last names, combine them randomly into a list of full 100 names. You know what? This is a real Python program instruction you are giving, and you are allowing this model to take this as the input, and it is going to take a second. Think about the instructions you provide, and it processes each of these, and it tries to create the answer, right? One word at a time. I think I'm run out of this account. Let me switch the account to show you the output. And you see the model naturally has switched to the code model, right? It has changed the code model. Let me quickly switch my account to another one. Just give me a second, please. And let me use my bigger account, which has enough money for me to try this one. And there you go. Can you see my screen again?
No, Arun, your screen is not visible yet. Can you try
Okay, okay.
resharing?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I regenerated this, right? And let
Yes,
me
we can
show.
see it now.
Yeah, let me show it again, right? So this is the same piece of text which I had wrote in plain English, and I asked this to convert this natural language to Python, right? And it kind of clearly understands that, okay, first name, list of first names. It simulates for first name, simulates for last name. It understands that it has used the random module. It writes a for loop, and this code is a fully functioning code, guys, right? So likewise, you can understand how to use these standard prompts. And let's say you want to understand more examples, right? In the interest of time, I would like to show you there are many inbuilt examples, guys. For example, grammar correction. You see this, correct this to standard English. She know when to market. We tried this, right? And the moment you hit try and play open playground, it's going to open up there, right? And let's try explain code, right? For all those um, coders out there, or somebody who wants to understand how this explain in code works, right? So let's see this example, right? Where I am giving a piece of code. It could be a code which you have from another developer, right? And you put the code and you say, explain the code to me, right? And the moment you hit submit, it is going to clearly understand every single code. It is going to document. It is going to give you a line by line instruction on what this code is all about, right? So let's also see another example. Yes, let's see something like you can find the keywords, you can check for the factuality, you can use a tweet classifier, something like given a set of tweets, what is the sentiment? I showed you some examples. You can build your own application which can create a doc string, and this is something which I even advised my team to do it, right? So gone are those days where we write our own doc strings, right? We can put a Python code and we can ask it to create a doc string, and look at this fabulous answer, right? And these examples are also topped with the code way for all those Python aspirants out there, enthusiasts. This is the way you interact with OpenAI API, right? So you need to get a key or API key, and you simply use the completions model to achieve the same thing, right, through your Python. And you can go on and on like this, right? And you can try simulate an interview question and whatnot, right? So I strongly encourage you go to the examples that are out there in OpenAI and take a look at them, right? So this is prompt engineering, and we kind of got exposed to many techniques. Let's really think about the future of this skill, and I believe the future is now, right? It is a very essential skill for any person, be it technical or non-technical, right? In the world of Gen AI, there is no escape, right? We all are either consumers, and you wait for a quarter or half a year, you're going to have this Windows 11, which is going to have this co-pilot where you can talk to your Word documents, you can talk to your PPTs, you can say that, hey, prep me up for this meeting, and it's going to go and pull the, understand the person in the meeting. It is going to go to the Outlook, pull all the historical emails, goes to the OneDrive, understands what are those documents shared by the person, and understands the past meeting, gets the notes, does all the stuff, and shows you 5 bullet points that these are the ones which you are supposed to talk in this meeting. And you say, make this a PowerPoint presentation, and it gives you the first best draft, right? And this is Copilot, and it's going to come up very soon, right? That's the edge factor which Microsoft has over any other operating system or any other tech company because of the OpenAI investment. Now, even if you do not want to become a full-time prompt engineer, by understanding these skills, which we slightly touched upon in the last 20-30 minutes, right, you can really create those business applications. It could be a virtual assistant or anything under the sun, work the intended way, right? So that is very important. And if you look at the analogy of how digital literacy became the necessity skill, right? Gone are those days where people write registers in libraries, right? And we slowly had this shift, right? After the computer era, we started capturing everything in a digital way. Now, prompt engineering is a skill which is considered crucial for the future, because it is going to be very similar to the digital literacy, which became a mandatory thing for the entire workforce, right? And we are talking about this ChatGPT, which has taken the world by storm. And needless to say, how we need to prepare ourselves for the future, right? So that's my time with you guys.